So now that I have the basic game mechanics worked out and I have the simple goal payoff, once the level is complete, I want to start thinking in terms of the menu screen. So I want kind of a standalone user experience. I may want to consider some basic instructions. Again, I'll leave it up to you to consider what kind of resource should be managed in your game. I suspect I'll set this fuel concept will be a resource to manage. Um, but again, those are things that I'm going to experiment with, and I won't present based on those decisions that I'll make. The final presentation that I want to consider is developing a menu, a menu screen, a 2D menu that we can click on. I mocked up something in Photoshop just to get a sense of how I wanted this to lay out. I used the same background graphic that I used inside my game just as a placeholder. I'm not going to import that, re-import that again. I'm just going to use the environment of my game. But I did mock up some text, and I've copied that out, and I've separated those elements based on the previous presentation and that process of setting up 2D sprites. So I've set up a menu folder, and inside my menu folder I have just all the different elements separated. Okay, and that's going to give us a lot of control. Now, I want to point out that I've already kind of mocked up the placement of my menu. And I've also, as I've been developing my project, you may have noticed that I'm incrementing the name of my scene. So I have level 01. That was my first level that I worked on. And then I went to level 01A, B, C, and D. D is the final level that I've worked on. Now I'll continue to work on this, but this is just kind of preserving the history of my project as I go. So once I'm done, I'm going to do some cleanup, both in the level and the usability and kind of dial things in, but I'm also going to go through, I'm going to clean up all the stuff that I don't need. I've also included a level 00, and I like to use level 00 as my loading menu or my menu screen. You can name this whatever you want. I like to use level 00. And I've started with level 00A, and I want to point out that if I load level 00A, I've already mocked up my 2D graphics, and I'll just kind of move this around. I've placed my 2D sprites, and those are just individual game elements. If I go into my menu, I have my yes element here. I have or, no, and then the title of ready for liftoff. And I've moved that in. These are just, some simple sprites that are placed in the screen. I'm actually looking through the camera here, so it's using the background graphic of my scene. I have the individual elements here that I've arranged in space. I have them scaled the way that I like, so this is the way that the camera is framed. Now, I started with my scene, so in fact, if I hit the play button, there's a little bit of a glitch here because the camera immediately zips down to follow the rocket, just as it's supposed to do. Okay, so we lose focus of the 2D menu. So I'm actually using the entire environment here. So if I were to scroll down here, you can see my entire game scene is down here. But what I'm interested in is using this as a transition point. So maybe what I'll do is I have this menu created and the camera's looking at it. And then when we say play, rather than loading a new level, which is what we'll do in the demo, maybe I'll hit yes and have the camera just move down to the rocket. So I have this animated event that just kind of sends my camera from position A to position B. But for the sake of the demo, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit yes, and that will load the next level. So I'm currently working on level 00A, which is my menu level. And so now I want to get the basic interactivity set up. Now, to set up the interactivity, the first thing that I'm going to do is, because I borrowed my game scene, I have a behavior on my camera or actions on my camera that tell it to follow the rocket. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of unwire, or I'm going to break my camera. So I'll find my main camera and I'll take this camera follow. I could remove this state machine entirely, or another technique is that maybe I want to leave it intact for some reason because maybe later I want to use it as a transition. What I could do is I could go into the inspector with the camera selected, and I can see there's a Playmaker FSM script that's been attached. This FSM script, if I were to name this more appropriately, in fact, let me just jump in. I'll call this camera control. Once I've named that camera control, you can see that I have a Playmaker FSM script here. It's called camera control. I can just uncheck that, and now that camera will not implement this state machine or that behavior or that script. So now when I hit play, I stay focused on my 2D menu. Okay, so that's the first step. I just had to kind of demake my camera control there for a moment, and that's exactly what I wanted. The next thing that I'm going to need is, because I've imported these assets, because I brought these elements in as 2D components, I'm going to need to load in the 2D package of Playmaker. So by default, we do not get the ability to interact with 2D components currently in Playmaker, and we have to download this as a separate package. So we need to go get some Playmaker actions that allow us to interface with 2D sprites. And so to do that, I'm going to go to the developer website. Okay, and there's a number of ways to get the developer website. The easiest thing is just go to HUTONG-games.com, and I'll provide a link inside Blackboard. And once you get to the developer website, if you click on the wiki link, from the wiki link, what we want to do is go into the add-ons. And from add-ons, you can see that there's Unity, Physics, 2D. And if I go to 2D, this is where I can download the 2D package. Okay, so I'll just click on that. I'll download this. This is the link that I'll provide inside Blackboard, so look for that if you haven't already discovered that. And now what I need to do is I need to go back to Unity, and I need to import those assets. So I'm going to import a package. It's a custom package. I'll navigate to my downloads folder, and I'll find the Unity 2D package, and I'll hit open. Once it opens, I'll say OK and hit import. I've already imported this offline, so I've went through that process of importing. Once we do that, you can confirm that you have those tools, because if you look in the action menu here, you can see that there's Physics 2D. If you have that Physics 2D, that means that you got all the other actions, and now we can start to look for input, and we can look for some 2D input. Okay, so once you import that 2D package and have your graphics imported as sprites, we can now interact with this menu. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a real simple menu function. And what I want to do is I want to click on yes. So this will be my yes play game or get started. Are you ready for liftoff? Yes, I'm ready. Let's play the game. So when I click on yes, I want to load a level, or I want to go to the gameplay state. So the first thing that I need to do is we're going to conduct some basic user interaction on our 2D sprites. In order to prepare our sprites to be clicked on, what we need to do is we need to go to Components, Physics 2D, and we need to add, in this case, I'll add a box collider. Now, I added a box collider to yes, and so now you can see I have this box collider 2D component attached to yes. If I go to no, I do not have by default a box collider, and I'll show you what happens if you try to add an action that does not have a box collider. I'm going to go back to yes, and what I want to do is I want to have a simple roll over and click on this, and when I click on it, I want to change state. So I'm going to add a state machine, and I'm doing this to the yes sprite graphic. And in state 1, again, I like to call these idle, but you can call the inactive state whatever you want. I'll move that over a little bit. I want another state. That this state will be the maybe the click state, or I could do even an over state. I need an event. I'll just call my event clicked, and I'll go back to my state. I'm going to add clicked as a transition and wire that over to click, or I could say load level. Okay, that might be the state, the appropriate state to load here. In my idle state, what I want to do is I want to go look for input. So I want some basic user input. And what I'm looking for is a mouse pick 2D. Okay, we also have mouse pick 2D event, but I want to go with just a simple mouse pick 2D, and I'll load that on the idle state. I'll double click. Excuse me, I selected the wrong action. I don't want a mouse pick 2D. I'll remove that. What I want is a mouse pick event 2D. So what I'll do is I'll use the owner, and we have a lot of different options here. We can send different events based on mouse over, mouse down, and so on. And so what I'm looking to do is that I could do like, I'll test this with a simple mouse over. So in other words, when I roll my mouse over yes, we can fire off this action. I'll say clicked, and I'll just give this a quick test. So I'll hit play, and I'm paying attention down here to my state machine, and when I roll over yes, you can see that it fires off load level. So just a quick test of the user input. So rather than doing a mouse over, which is when the mouse focuses on whatever asset we're attaching the state machine to, I'll set that back to none. I could do a mouse down. Okay, so in other words, when we click on it, or I could do a mouse up. So the difference between mouse down and mouse up, you can experiment with this, but the difference is that if I roll my mouse over, we're still not firing off let me hit play. When I roll my mouse over, we're not firing off the event. When I click on it, and I've just pressed click, we're not firing off the event. And if I drag off of it and release, you'll see that the event has not come to pass. But if I click and release the mouse when I'm over top of it, that's a mouse up, which means that it then fires off the event. So the difference between mouse mouse down and mouse up is mouse down happens immediately when you click. Mouse up only triggers our action when we release the mouse and we're over top of the graphics. So a slight little nuance, but typically when you're clicking on links on the web, they're mouse up. So that allows you to click on a link and say, oh, I don't want to go there, drag your mouse off of it and release it, and it doesn't trigger that link. So users are accustomed to a mouse up, but we could also use a mouse down. So now that we have this basic machine set up, what we can do is we can load a level based on this event. So what we could do is if I just type in level up here, you can see that we can load level. There's actually a level category. And if I go into level, I can do all this stuff. I can destroy, don't destroy unload. So if I load a level, I keep all the stuff that was in the previous scene. I could load level or load number, or I could restart level. And really what I want to do is I want to go to my load level scene. I'll double click load level, and then I could just type in the name of the level here, and I'll load in LVL01. That's the level that I want to load. Okay, I won't have a load event. Excuse me. So in this case, when I hit the play button and I click yes, it'll load level 01. Okay, actually I'll load level 01D because that's my development level. That was pretty good. Now the only other thing that we need to know about loading levels and menu screens to get this whole process to work is that in order to load levels, separate levels, we have to set this up in our build settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Build Settings, and whatever levels that I want to load in my default project, I'm going to go back to Mac and PC, just make sure I have Mac set. What I need to do, I'm going to go into my assets. With the build settings open, what I need to do is I need to make sure that any level that I'm calling to load, I'll drag my level and drop it inside this scene. So you can see that I'm loading level 00, which is actually not the level that I want to load because I'm working on level 00A. So I'll just right click. Hello, right click, trying to delete you. Let me uncheck and see if that gives me the option. It's not. Maybe let's move it as my second level. Make sure it's selected. Come on. Should be able to right click on this. Maybe I'll just select it and hit the delete key and that gets rid of it. So you can highlight the level, hit delete. Should be able to right click on it. Maybe that's a feature that's been removed. That was not coming up for me. Maybe it'll come up for you. So I have level 01D. Okay, that's the level. That's my actual game level. My menu level is level 00A. I'll just drag that in. Now this hierarchy is important. The first level, unless we tell it otherwise, that first level to load should be top in your list and you can drag those around. So right now I'm loading level 00A. That'll be my default level that loads, which should show my menu. And then when I click on yes, it should take me to level 01D. So now that I have that all set up, I'm going to say build, and I'll build this to my project folder is fine. And I'll call this, this is build W. I'll use an underscore, and I'll just say it with a game. I'll use the initials there, and I'll underscore again and say Mac. This is my Mac build of my final say it with a game, and I'll hit the save button. And so now once that goes through the process of building, I'll just jump out and find that. It should be in my Dropbox folder here, in my game design, my project folder, say it with a game, and I'll find that project. So I have my final build here. I'll just double click to load that project. I'll load it at an appropriate size for my machine. I want to make sure that it's set to windowed when I launch that. That way it won't really kind of stretch the graphics or it'll keep everything in proportion. And so I'll hit the play button. And once the splash screen goes away, I should see my interface. Now, I have a little bit of cleanup to do here. I got a little timer running in the top left-hand corner. I still have my mini map showing. As I click around on my menu in the background, I can hear that thrust. In fact, if I hold this down, there's a rocket around here somewhere that's flying around, and that's not good. It's not what I want. So I'll need to kind of clean up some of those components. But if I roll my mouse over the yes, and I click on it, it takes me and loads the next level. This is the playable level. So I have that basic menu set aside. Now I could have handled that menu a number of different ways. I could have it load in the same scene and load just right over top of my game. That way, if I press maybe the escape key, it could bring up the menu that allows me to play, resume, or quit. Those are things that I can experiment with. But overall, I think now you have all the information you need to successfully complete this project. So think in terms at this point of not just the mechanics, but the design of the project, and think about what kind of message that you want to send with your game. So think of a little game that allows you to complete it pretty quickly, and upon completion, you reveal that message to a friend that you can send this to. So, and that's it for the final presentation of this class. Make sure that you post both Mac and PC builds of your final project to the discussion board by the due date. And as is always the case, make sure that you post screenshots, works in progress to the discussion board. And if you have any questions, you can post them in the discussion board as well. So have fun with the project, and I look forward to seeing your final projects.